All right, everybody, it's Will, aka ZombieNikon, and I'm here with
Jake, the official inspector of the safety dance.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah. So I don't really know how to start this one off today. We played D&D like 2 weekends ago now.
Yeah, two weekends ago.
Because we didn't play this week, and then I haven't uploaded a thing to YouTube yet. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition is out.
Yeah,
I've been playing that.
I've been watching a little bit of that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I streamed it. I streamed it like yesterday, and then I streamed it a little bit today. I streamed it on Friday, and then I streamed it today. And then I'm also recording a bunch of videos for it that I'll be releasing like periodically.
Solid.
Thinking about doing like 30-minute segments of each. The only problem that I see with it, it's a very like role play oriented game, if that makes sense. So you're kind of like, it's like a role play game with brief spurts of comments, brief spurts of like gunfire in between.
Yeah.
It's really hard to figure out like what's good content and what's bad content in Mass Effect, which I'm realizing. That and apparently everyone fucking hates this game right now.
Really?
I've seen so many articles that are talking about how people expected more from it. And I was like, you expected more from a game that came out 12 years ago that
It's
they
a
just
reskin.
remastered? Yeah.
It's not like they completely redid the entire game.
Yeah.
Down to the smallest mechanics or anything.
Yeah, they remastered it in 4K, and then they changed the way a lot of the mechanics actually function. So like one of the issues I had was the first time I ever played through the first game, I played it as an engineer, which was actually fairly recently. I didn't get a chance to play Mass Effect for a while, but I think it was actually like last November. And playing an engineer sucked because the only gun that I could effectively use was a pistol, and it was really fucking boring. On top of that, like the guns felt like they overheated. There was never really a good reticle. Like everything just seemed off, right? Like it just seemed odd.
Right.
And they fixed a lot of that in this game. They made it to where like I'm playing as a soldier now, obviously, so I'm good with all weapons, but I don't have any like biotic powers. And then all the gunplay feels good. Same thing with like I'm running through a mission right now where I'm using the Mako, which is the like 4x4 looking truck thing.
Okay. Yeah.
They like landed on planets and just go and yeet people.
Right.
They fixed all that stuff too. So it used to have like you would have different damages based on your like wheels and the body of your like vehicle and random other shit like that.
Oh, wow.
It's now just a health bar with a shield, so you could see when it's replenishing.
Oh, that's nice at least.
Yeah.
That way
And
you're
then-
not managing so many different features.
Yeah, and then something that a lot of people were complaining about was they were saying that it was a what is it? It's a remaster as opposed to like a re-release. So they didn't like rebuild the entire game. They just like took the old game and like basically put a 4K skin over it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But that's what's advertised, right?
Yeah, that was exactly what was advertised. It's just people are
Yeah.
getting pissed off about that because they wanted more. They wanted like more missions, more like a complete redo of the game.
Yeah, open up a dictionary, nerds. No, sorry. Like that's
Well, it's the same thing that not BioWare. Who's it? 343 Industries under Microsoft. It's the same thing they did for the Halo games. They did the Halo Master Chief Collection because everyone loved those games, and they had it to where you can swap between like the old way everything looked, which is all barren and gross, and then the new way everything looks in Halo. They don't have that in Mass Effect, obviously, because EA. That feature would cost you twice as much.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, and then when I was buying the game, one thing I hated about it was, so I went on there to like pre-order it because I glutton for punishment like that, and there was a $60 version of the game, which is all three of the games, 1, 2, and 3 for Mass Effect.
Huh.
That's the one I got. And then there was an $80 version of the game, and I was like, "Oh, what am I getting? What am I getting for that value?"
One skin and a soundtrack.
No, you get Mass Effect 3, the old version, and then you get Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, the new versions. Yeah, like it's the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Mass Effect 3 pre-buy, and I was like, "Wait, so you're like, what the fuck are you talking about pre-buy? Like,
Yeah, that's
I'm already pre-ordering it. Why are you giving me the old game that I probably already own? Like, I'm not even getting it discounted at this point."
jeez. Yeah, put your hands down. Stop reaching for all the money. Like, that's
Calm down here.
goodness.
God, it was bad enough that you re-released 3 games that you made 12 years ago, but like, calm down.
And I get it to a degree. Like reskins are always fun because then the game actually looks how you remember it looking versus going back and playing it. And you're like, oh, these graphics were so realistic, and then it's like, oh, everything's like polygon shapes and stuff like that.
Dude,
you know?
Yeah, that's the way I felt about Mass Effect 1 because I've never taken a character all the way through all 3 of the games.
Okay.
I played Mass Effect 2 almost right as it came out. That was like right when I got an Xbox 360. And then Mass Effect 3 came out like no shit the year that I joined the military. So I didn't have a chance to play it. Obviously, I was doing other stuff, saving lives and shit. And Yeah, so I never got to play Mass Effect 3. Everyone said they hated it, and then that also turned me off from it because apparently the ending was trash.
Right.
Because no matter what choices you made throughout all 3 of the games, it still ended the same way.
Right.
And then I guess eventually they took that away. And,
yeah, I knew
and
it
actually added different like endings and stuff to it.
Oh, nice. I knew a couple people that got into it. I played the first one briefly, and I got to that rover part, and I was on a planet for like 2 hours, and then randomly like exploded, and then it set me back 2-3 hours in game, and I was like, well, I'm not redoing that because that's kind of how my brain is it has to have new entertainment, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, and then I put it down and never picked it back up.
Yeah, that was a real bad thing about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how everyone else is experiencing it. I have a really awesome PC with a 3090 in it and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah,
and a solid state hard drive.
Yeah, you're over here actually able to play Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah,
you know?
So yeah, that's another game. Like when Cyberpunk came out, everyone was talking about how shitty the graphics were and how terrible it looked compared to what they had released. And I was like, this is as advertised for me. Obviously, I have like a really expensive PC. So also playing this in like 4K, I'm getting like 244 frames, all kinds of shit like that. And oh man, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, all the loading times are like fucking lightning.
Yeah.
Like the longest loading time I've had was like 5 seconds.
Yeah, but you also have what, 32 or 64?
64
Yeah,
in my
so
gaming PC, I think, for RAM, and then I have like a really good CPU, and then the 3090 graphics.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it just, yeah, it's just lightning fast. And I don't know if that's with everyone. I don't know if it's like, again, maybe if someone has like a super shitty PC or something, it might
I
play
probably
worse,
have like a Russian RAM, so I've got an odd number like 13. You know, like that's.
Oh, my fucking water bottle broke too. So if you hear it like,
bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
it just sounds like you're vaping.
Yeah.
Check out this cloud.
Oh my god, it's a dragon. Oh, get it? I'm in the dungeon and the dragon. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I love the Mass Effect games, the character development, all the lore and everything. I despise EA with a fiery passion, so I'm really ashamed that I gave them another $60. But it's slowly becoming worth it. I think this is going to be the first time I ever take one character all the way through all the games.
Right.
It's going to take me a while because each game has like 30 hours of gameplay. But yeah, I'll make 90 videos. It'll be good.
Right. Solid.
And then we'll fucking get it done. But
yeah. Well, that's with EA when they started doing the whole like I think it was Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Where it was mostly like pay to win, and you had to have like 40 in-game hours to unlock like one character versus just paying like $50.
Yeah.
That's when I stopped buying EA, which really hurts as a Star Wars nerd.
Yeah.
And I'll fully admit that.
Well,
I'm a Star Wars nerd, but
not to mention Star Wars Battlefront was amazing. Like the original, that was such a good game.
Yeah, and that was on. Was that on the original Xbox or was that on the?
Oh shit! I played it on PlayStation 2.
Yeah, so I think that was like GameCube era kind of gaming.
GameCube, you know? And original Xbox One, or like original Xbox, PlayStation 2, and then like GameCube.
The good old days, you know.
Yeah, because at the same time I was playing that, I was also playing Resident Evil on GameCube. Resident Evil 4.
Oh, solid.
Yeah, I'm probably like one of the 5 people on the planet that played it on GameCube instead of like anything else.
Oh, what was that?
With the tiny little discs.
Yeah, this will date us a little bit, but I want everyone to remember what Final Fantasy game came out 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, you did this to me. You did this to me because I said like Final Fantasy like 7 or 8 or something, and it's like Final Fantasy like 13.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it was Final Fantasy X came out like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which just blows my mind because I remember playing that while I was in high school and all that kind of stuff.
Well, because Final Fantasy 7, right? That's the one that everyone loves. And that was like 4 discs on PlayStation 1. Back in the 90s.
Until recently, almost every Final Fantasy was multi-disc. Like even Final Fantasy like 15, 16 was ridiculous.
Yeah,
like 4 to 6 discs.
But
yeah, Final Fantasy 7 came out September 7th, 1997.
Yeah.
The original one.
24 years ago now.
Yeah. Which is just crazy to think about. The 7th iteration of a game. And they're pretty much the Fast and the Furious of games as far as like how many quantity they have out there.
None of the lore makes sense. I never got into Final Fantasy 7 or 4 or any of the major ones. I played Final Fantasy 13 in 2015, I think.
Right.
And that I don't even know if that's the right Final Fantasy. It's the one that has the prince. You play as the prince and all his little like boy toys.
Oh,
like his posse riding around in his fucking like Cadillac and like shit.
That's,
you can go and take pictures and have like, dates and shit.
Yeah, that was
with the chocobos.
I think it was 15
birds.
actually. I'm probably wrong there, but
yeah, it was very RPG-esque.
Yeah.
And the coolest part of that game was being able to just like jump on top of like massive creatures
and you
like,
could teleport and all kinds of
people.
stuff.
Yeah. That's his whole power was like speed teleporting.
Netflix actually has a movie out that's like introducing the game essentially.
Yeah.
And it's a full like 2.5 hour like feature
Oh my
film that
God.
builds up the entire
universe lore, yeah.
And then like right as it ends is where the game begins essentially.
Well,
they released it just before the game came out.
That's basically just the entire beginning of the game is just hours of cutscenes.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
I think I went on my first deployment and I downloaded it, went on my first deployment, and then came back and played the game. So I didn't get to play it for like 4.5 months.
Right.
And
then what's crazy about Final Fantasy is you don't have to be into every single one because they're all different planes of existence.
Yeah. It's real weird.
A la D&D, right?
Yeah.
Is that they all are standalones unless it's like a 13-2 or something like that, essentially, which is kind of a cool way to do it.
I know a bunch of the original ones take place with Cloud, right? Like that's the main character, the guy with the big sword.
That's Final Fantasy 7.
Is that the only one that takes place with Cloud? I thought Cloud was like
it's all brand new characters each time.
Oh,
That's why it's
shit.
new universes, new planets, new
Fucking
backstory,
mind
new
blown,
lore,
man. I had
which
no
is
idea.
also really intensive when you think about it. That every game they release, which admittedly it takes them 2-3 years to release a game, is an entire universe of lore and everything. It's similar creatures. Again, it's like D&D. It's like you can be in any
like
you could be in
Eberron,
Eberron.
Greyhawk, Faerun,
Exactly.
Finrath,
All that kind of stuff.
Sponsored by Finrath.com.
Yeah, exactly. But all the creatures are the same. Traditionally, at least.
Yeah. Dude, I had no idea. I'm fucking mind blown.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get so much hate for that because again, I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy. I don't think they're that great. Like maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not a fan of the huge like anime swords or like the well, I mean we had this discussion where your big baddie from the end of your campaign grew like to 7 feet tall and like literally became a dragon in like a little cutscene that you described.
Right.
And I was like, to me that's so like that's over the top. I'm not about the over the top. I'm about the really dramatic.
I'm all
scenes.
about over the top and
I love my gothic
dramaturg.
horror. Like it's just
that would be the difference. Is I do have I do tend to be the more rule of cool, like over the top, a little bit more zany, cartoonish. With descriptions and the way things interact and stuff like that, and so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Versus gothic horror is traditionally more realistic. Like even
it's to some degree. I mean, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village, with Lady Dimitrescu. That's supposed to be gothic horror as well.
Lady Donkadonk.
Yeah, Lady Donkadonk. Man, you step on me, please. She wasn't even a third of the game. Did I tell you that? So, spoiler warning for anyone that hasn't played the game yet. Go fuck yourselves. I watched Jacksepticeye play it because I did not play. I haven't played a Resident Evil since Resident Evil 4.
Right.
I played a little bit of Resident Evil 5. I think the one with Chris Redfield in Africa.
Yeah.
I think that's Resident Evil 5. Resi 5. And I have no fucking clue what happened to Resi 6. I don't know what that one's about. And then 7 is the one where you're inside the house. I played the like trailer where in VR for Resi 7, which was like super scary and kind of awesome. And then again, haven't played anything good since Resi 4 because that's the last good Resident Evil in my opinion. But Jacksepticeye has played all of them on his YouTube channel.
Right.
Shout out Jacksepticeye.
You can email us at mediocreadvice@outlook.com and give us a shout out.
please God do that. No, so Bree and I watched through, he played for 9 episodes and each one of his episodes is like maybe just over an hour up to about an hour and a half of gameplay. So the whole game is like maybe 12 hours of gameplay. Right. And it was crazy because he literally like started the game. The whole first episode was him like getting used to controls and doing all that stuff. Second episode was like some other bullshit that was happening, like establishing characters. Third episode, he was in the castle with Lady Donkadonk. And then like fourth episode, he was like out of the castle. Like that's how quick her part is. And I think she just got like blown out of proportion on the internet because of all the whole like all the memes that were coming out about her. Yeah. And it's insane, man. Like it was like quick. Like he just went into the castle. She's like walking around and all that stuff. He murders her like 3 daughters and then kills her and then leaves the castle and just like dips out. Grabs like the part of his baby or whatever and leaves. And then I completely forgot that there was a section that he went through that was with a bunch of dolls. Which actually are in Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. There's a whole article about them on D&D Beyond.
Oh, that's dope.
Carionettes. So like one of the big bosses is a carionette. She's like a living doll.
Yeah.
And he straight up like murders her and just leaves in like the next episode. So that was like 1 hour or something.
Yeah.
And then there was like a fish person that took him a little while to beat because it was really like difficult battle. And then he goes up against Heisenberg, which is the last guy. He's kind of the Actually, Jack described it as like the red string that ties everything together. Like he's kind of the big baddie, and then you like beat his ass, and then the game's basically over, and you're like playing as Chris Redfield, and then like your character dies and shit, and then end of the game.
Interesting.
Yeah, you like give your baby to, you find out like your wife was alive the whole time. You give your baby over to the wife, and then she flies away with Chris Redfield, and it's like setting up Resi 9. Like he's gonna go, because I guess all throughout this, and it's super obvious with all the like lore and logos and stuff that you're seeing. Apparently, the Umbrella Corporation, the dude that founded it, like got trapped here in this like Romanian village or whatever.
Okay.
Meets Miranda, meets all these people and all this fancy stuff, finds the fungus and is like, that's not fast enough. I'm going to turn it into a virus. And then it's like, he goes to Africa and finds the progenitor virus, which is Resi 5.
Gotcha.
And then he goes and finds like the T virus and the fucking the parasite that's in Resi 4.
Gotcha.
And so like all that kind of just spawns. So it's basically like, it's not a prequel, it's a sequel prequel, because it kind of explains everything that happened leading up to the first games.
But I actually liked the advertisement of kind of going away from just zombies, because that's all I've known Resident Evil to be for. But with a name like Resident Evil, it's kind of cool that you can branch out and have your like specters, vampires, and all that kind of stuff.
And Capcom and the guys who write Resident Evil though, for Resident Evil 8, they're not even they're still like zombies. So like the werewolves that are in the game and Lady Dimitrescu, which is supposed to be like a vampire chick that like drinks blood, it's all like the fungus. They're all like cadows or whatever. It's not even like werewolves and zombies. Like they couldn't just fucking say like, oh, she's a vampire. Oh, they're like werewolves. And then also the T-virus like turns you into shit like this.
Right. Has like a one in a billion chance to turn someone like this instead of a regular one or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any fucking sense, because you have this like crazy over the top fights and these crazy over the top like creatures that were created and built and all that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, it's all explained away with like fungus and like viruses and shit. Why not just make them why not make it a werewolf virus or like a vampire virus?
True.
And then the like person that was like creating the T virus was like trying to like replicate those or something, and then created zombies instead. Like that would make sense.
Right, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can have different viruses out in the world.
And then they kind of explained, because you play as Ethan Winters in Resi 7 and Resi 8, and he's constantly getting his limbs chopped off and then just like dumping some goop on it, and then it like reattaches. And you're like, that's really weird. Oh my god, what's happening? Right? Like, oh, video games. Right. Turns out he was like a fungus dude the whole time, and that's how he was like regenerating his shit.
Crazy.
Which I think everyone called. Because it was a little too over the top for some of the stuff, and they
too
kept
obvious.
Kind of focusing on
it was just put out there instead of like being subtle. Yeah.
A lot of video games though. A lot of video games have come out. Some old, some new, some lame. I don't know. I'm not going to play through any of those Resident Evils. When they win, because I'm assuming they're going to, when they make a Resi 4 remake, I'm going to play through that one though.
Right.
Because it's with Leon Kennedy and it's kind of a standalone. Right. And I really hope they fix some of the issues I had with that game, which was just, I mean, really nothing, but Leon, help me, Leon.
Yeah. See that?
Fucking God.
Yeah, we were talking about, I instantly started having flashes back to Slippy from Star Fox.
Oh, yeah.
Star Fox 64.
Do a barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll. Help me, Fox. They're on my tail. No! Like explodes. And then in that game, if you lose a crewmate, they're out for the next mission, and then they come back, which is really unfortunate for Slippy, because you still have to hear her get chased, or get chased the entire time, essentially, and just get shot down.
Oh, gross.
Oh, man, yeah. And then, if you ever get the chance to play Star Fox 64, I've got a lot of nostalgia to it. There's a bird who's just a dickhead to you the entire time. There's a rabbit who raised you somehow, and you're like just this badass fox who flies things, which is where I think like pilot mentality comes from, you know?
I think my dear brother Shane, I think he has Star Fox with an original like N64.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he was playing it at my house, like we connected and everything, and he was just running through the game.
I should see if my mother still has our Xbox, or sorry, oh my god, our Nintendo 64. I should see if she could bring it down and we can like binge play with Randall some like Star Fox or something like that. And,
yeah, no, I could totally I mean, I could record it too. I think we could just connect it all.
It's interesting. That's how I'll put it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of nostalgia fun and stuff like that. But ultimately, you have like these circular maps where you have to like destroy pillars essentially. But your teammates constantly they're on my tail, Fox, and it's like this old rabbit that raised you and stuff like that. And then Slippy's just the most annoying and gets shot down the most. And you're just like, all right, it's almost like you're willing to let that person die just so that you don't have to hear it anymore, the audio anymore. And then, but the unfortunate side is on certain missions, if if you don't have them, you can't unlock the secret areas because it's an old game.
Yeah.
So like in order for them to be like, oh, follow me, they still have to be like alive, and then they like shoot a different asteroid and you go left instead of forward or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh shit. Yeah, that would suck. Oh, because you got to deal with all that shit. Yeah, dude. Old video games were real bad about stuff repeating. I mean, we were talking about it too with Resi 4. You kind of did it with the what are you selling? What are you selling? Because he just kept doing.
What are you buying?
In Resi 8, the Duke has like different lines. Like they actually gave that guy different lines in the game. So like if you click on it multiple times, like I think eventually he'll start repeating himself. But for the most part, it's like original stuff.
Yeah, I think as games have expanded on their memory usage and capabilities, that's been something that's kind of nice, kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, now that they're all like 90 plus gigabits.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I definitely enjoy the old fashioned, like you can memorize all the different ones, all the different segments of audio, so you have favorite ones and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Hadouken!
Yeah. All you can.
Kaido wins. Yeah, you know, like.
Oh, man. I think we covered most everything that I want to talk about with D&D, like the last time when I was bitching about it the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been having to. I mean, we're changing a little bit of topics here, but what are we? Some sort of regulated show? So I have been on Reddit for a while now,
right?
Looking on all the D&D Reddits and like the DM Academy and all those fucking places, and there are so many stupid fucking people out there for 100%. D&D, which I knew it was the internet, and I knew that, and it irritates me so fucking bad, which is why I'm taking a break from social media.
Yeah.
So it's part of the reason I don't have a whole lot of like commenting on comments, because I usually grab mine from Reddit. And the main thing, I'm taking a break from Reddit lately. Oh my God, dude. Those guys are ridiculous over there. Like, there's so much shit that people start for no reason.
Well, it's the internet can be extremely toxic, especially if you can't like if you have a hard time not walking away from arguments and stuff like that. It definitely starts to irk you, because there are people who are just trolls to begin with. Yeah. Then there are also people who are idiots.
Yeah, that legitimately believe the shit they're saying.
You can mathematically prove people wrong, and they will not care what you say.
100%.
And that's something that's kind of interesting about the dynamics of social media, is everyone has their opinion, and you really can't convince most people that they're anything different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I've had so many people on here that are like, it's not even about like arguing about the rules or anything. People will literally be like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what the mobile feat does in D&D 5th edition. Can you guys tell me what it does? Also, I'm an anti-vaxxer and I think vaccines are stupid. And you're like, what the fuck did that have to do with your question?
With D&D at all?
This is literally a site called DM Academy. Why the fuck are you putting your political decisions on here? Like, no one cares.
Yeah, no one wants that here.
Old Sleepy Joe is a great president and Trump's a fucking idiot. Also, like, how do I run in D&D? Like, how does movement work?
How does movement speed work?
Like, shut the fuck up. Like, get out of here. D&D is not supposed to be about that shit. I'm supposed to be able to go in there and be my like sexy ass half elf like Robin trying to become a god and shit and be an immortal. Like, why does it matter? You know what I mean?
What the politics are.
Yeah, I don't care about your politics.
Yeah, like
unless like if you're being disruptive like these people I'm describing and these people that I've actually talked to over the last few days, then like, yeah, get the fuck out of my house. But I don't care what your politics are. Right. You know what I mean? As long as you're playing the game and enjoying the game and enjoying the story we tell together. Like, I don't really think your politics should ever come into
people playing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Why do you have to have a player who's like, oh, I'm going to be a cleric who worships the god Emperor Trump? You know what I mean? Like, and
Trump doesn't exist in Finrath. Get out of here. Like,
exactly.
Or find a god that exists in Finrath. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really weird that people will pull politics, no matter what side they are, into like everything they do.
Politics, sexuality, like gender politics, like anything that's happening. Like, I mean, the guy that I was talking to, the main one, was literally like, I have a guy that doesn't show up to any sessions. We play online D&D, and he hasn't showed up for the last few. And so I went to go and talk to him. I called him to like figure out what was going on, and I found out he was an anti-masker and an anti-vaxxer. And so I kicked him out of my games. And I was like, so you kicked him out for his like belief system, regardless of how fucking stupid it is. You kicked him out for that, and not because he wasn't showing up to your games? like you're putting in work and effort, and you care more about the fact that he's not wearing a mask than you do about the effort you're putting in.
Right. To me, and
him not showing up. Like,
the final point there isn't whatever he thinks outside of the game.
Yeah.
Right. Again, if you're not showing up being a dick, you have a right to your opinion to a certain degree, no matter how right or wrong that opinion is.
Yeah.
But if I'm building a world for you and you're not showing up to my games, and admittedly once or twice here and there is not a big deal, but if you don't show up habitually game after game after game
with no reason,
that's the game. That's when I'm going to be like, you don't really like sit out for a while until you get your shit together.
Figure your life out. Right?
Yeah, it's a game. If this isn't a priority for you to spend time with your friends and play it, that's okay. But don't expect me to like work around you.
See, and that is the way you have that conversation with your players, right?
Right.
Same thing with just in general, just have those conversations with your players.
Yeah.
Like if you feel so strongly about like anti-mask and anti-vax views, then it doesn't fucking matter how you talk to your players about it. Like you bring it up like, hey, are you an anti-masker? Because if you are, get out of my house kind of thing.
Right.
Which beyond any of that, this game's online, so it doesn't even matter if the person's not wearing their mask.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if they don't have their vaccine because they're inside their house miles away from you. But
well,
beyond any of that, like throwing all that out the window.
The conversation changes a lot, especially just you having responsibility, right? So I had a daughter last April in 2020, right? And if we were still playing our game instead of being on COVID restrictions, I probably would have been up and been like, hey, I'm probably not going to play for the next 6 weeks or so while I get my baby settled into the new house. And that's a responsible way to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to play. I have a life thing that's going on.
Yeah.
That's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't even matter. Like, none of that even matters to me. Like, that's all you having a decent player and explaining yourself to your DM when you have that conversation.
Well, that's what I'm saying is it's...
The guy I'm talking about on Reddit is like...
Yeah.
was trying to figure out a nice way to like bring that stuff up to his players when all he had to do was bring it up, and then if they didn't like it, they can leave, and if he doesn't like it, he can leave.
Right.
It just seemed like he was trying to find a nice way to be a dick to his players, and I don't like that.
Right.
So what I'm saying, like he's bringing his politics into the game.
Right.
It's the same to me. It's the same as if you had people in your game that are very religious and then you're not religious, which actually you and I are the exact, like that's the comparison I'm drawing here. You're religious. I'm not.
Right.
That would be like me kicking you out of the game because you're religious.
Exactly.
That's how that feels to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the fuck would I do that? Unless you're bringing that into the game that I'm creating, right? Like if you're being disruptive. Yeah, I'm going to kick you out.
I'm not going to pick any of your fate gods playing a cleric because I believe in XYZ.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be bringing from the outside.
Yeah. Like you could play a paladin. You could play a cleric in my game.
The ability to separate reality from a fictitious game on the table.
Yes. Oh my God, that is a huge thing. And at the same time, immerse yourself in that world that your DM is creating while also keeping it like, you know, like this is a game ultimately.
Right.
Regardless of how you view D&D, it is a game.
Yep.
Like it is not meant to broach all these real world topics. It's not meant to do any of that stuff unless that is the story you're wanting to create with your friends.
Yep.
In which case, that is what session 0 is for.
Yep.
Buy Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, fucking read session 0 and figure out what they're trying to say.
Right.
That's the main thing I was boiling this down to.
No, exactly. And I think session 0 is being introduced and more widespread is a great thing for the game. If you can't pull your politics out of it and you have to judge people based off of it, for instance, we knew someone that we went to a party, we were introduced to this individual, me and my lovely wife, and they were getting along, and then Trump's name was just mentioned, and then that person never talked to us again.
Yeah.
And we never said which way we vote. We never said whether we support anything that he does.
Oh man!
And we had no political conversation about it, right?
Yeah.
And yet, because the name was brought up in our presence, we are associated with it, and therefore we're never talked to again.
Yeah, and that's such an extreme reaction to the. I guess that's just the world we live in now, where like everyone has extreme reactions. Like, there are things that you need to be passionate about on this earth. A lot of things, right? But who you're like that type of shit, no, go fuck yourself. Like, get out of here. None of that actually matters.
That level of
in the
passion,
end of it. Like that's insane to me. Like not talking to people because of how they voted. Like, what do you mean? Like, if they're being, like I said, if they're being disruptive and like getting just fucking with you all the time about it, or constantly bringing it up or starting arguments or whatever, yeah, that's a toxic relationship. You should probably cut that out of your life.
Right.
But if it's just like a conversation about it between two adults or two children for this matter, like fucking just have the conversation. I don't see what the issue is.
Right, have the conversation. Draw healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
I've had a number of family members that I love to death, but I don't talk about politics with them anymore.
Yeah,
regardless of whether I agree or disagree with them, it's because it's a healthier relationship to not talk about it, and that's just boundaries that you have to draw.
It also doesn't do anything except start an argument, especially when you disagree on something.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't feel like you and I have ever had that. You know what I mean? Like, I've had conversations with you about religion and about politics and things like that. And whether we agree or disagree, I don't feel like we've ever just fucking all out started a war over it, like most people. And I don't know if that's just
next year.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just like our personalities, how we mesh or what. But God, it annoys me.
What's the current meme where that's like a picture of two people and it's like they were best of friends until they weren't, and then it's the negative picture of it because it's like the murder documentary one.
Like burns away.
They never had major fights. Until they did.
Until they fought to the death. No, I don't know. I guess I appreciate you as a friend.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you're my friend. I'm glad you do this podcast with me.
Right. Well, we're able to respectfully disagree about things.
Yeah, fuck those dudes on the Reddit, man. Those guys are fucking insane. Oh, okay. So cool. It's that time. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Commenting on comments.
I'm gonna bring a bongo drum in here to add.
Are you? Boo 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 boo.
Yeah, I've got like 4.
Get the music here. We're gonna go to lo-fi today.
Oh, nice.
Bringing it down low.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harris Heller. You're a great man. The first thing I want to bring up, because I know it's going to start an argument. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Perfect.
No.
Perfection.
I just want to say that I hate this person out the gate. I'm not even going to lie. I don't normally hate people, but so one of the things I want to bring up with you is a lot of people out in the world and on the internet, especially if you talk to them, will say that there is no wrong way to play D&D.
Right.
Despite what you've been told, there is a wrong way to play D&D. And you're going to immediately know who I'm talking about when I bring this up.
Right.
I had someone on Reddit tell me that D&D is classified as small squad wargaming. Remember this conversation?
Yeah. No, I remember it. Yeah, I figured this was coming.
Now, I know what you're thinking, right? So, D&D could be played however you want. No wrong play. I've said that there's no wrong way to play D&D before, right? But there is. If you're playing D&D like a small squad wargaming game, you're doing it wrong, and please stop.
Yep.
That is not what D&D is about. Like, on the cover of the player's handbook, which is arguably the core rule book of D&D, it says it is a role play game.
Right.
Now,
if you Google D&D, it comes up as a tabletop role playing game.
Yes, tabletop, which you don't even need a table to play it. Role playing game.
Yep.
Right. Role play being the operative word there, not tabletop wargaming.
Right.
If you want to play a war game, play Warhammer. That is literally what it's designed to be. You are like a god omnipotent being and you have an army fighting another army.
Correct.
If all you care about is stats and you don't care about the geopolitics of the fucking Finrathian and Ebriomoran councils, like, then why are you in my game? You know what I mean?
So for real time here, I Googled Small Squad Wargaming. All the minis that pop up, a majority of them are for Warhammer 40K, just as we have mentioned. Also, let's look at this one. It says 7 best skirmish games for small scale wargaming. Let's see. Oh, no, get away. Sure, I'll accept your cookies for one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of these
cookies.
are D&D. BattleTech, Wasteland Warfare, Drowned Earth, X-Wing Miniatures game, Warhammer Underworld.
The X-Wing Miniatures game. That's a Star Wars game. I know that. I've actually used those minis in D&D before you and I started playing together.
Yep.
Yeah, the X-Wing. That's the thing that you use with you flip the fucking coin things, right?
Yep.
Where you do the ships coming in. Yeah.
So
Small Squad Wargaming.
That's Small Squad Wargaming. What I actually, and this is a tangent on this, but this is something that I really enjoy as a rule set that I came up with. And I have to find the rules so that I can post them online somewhere. But essentially what I did was I took those dials for ships for the larger ones.
Yeah, like a hard right turn, like banking left turn, like a short like right turn.
Yep, and
like
then so I bought the base set for the X-Wing miniatures game, and it actually comes with your dials to move. It comes with your templates to use and all that kind of stuff. And I built classic ships, like little cheap ones that I found for $10-$20, and I put them on stands that match those things, and that's how I actually did airship combat in my airship campaign. Was all my players got to choose a dial without talking to me about it, and then I chose a dial and put it down, and then they flip their dial, I flip mine, and we have an initiative order.
Yeah, because that can cause ships to like ram into each other. It can cause like you need to like broadside someone to get the cannons up, right?
Exactly.
So if you turn right and they turn right, then they're going to be shooting like right at the same time.
Exactly.
Like, all kinds of crazy shit.
Which was a really fun way to do it. I highly recommend hybridizing rules to a certain degree like that. You could do regular ship combat like that, all kinds of things. And it's a way to bring in another system that is fun and actually thought out with rules into your game without having to take too much time to create an entire new thing.
Yeah. So I guess to sum up my whole thing here and get us back on topic.
Yeah.
If you've ever described D&D as small squad wargaming or said the words to me, 85% of D&D is combat, you're wrong.
Yeah, why do you have?
And not only are you wrong, you're missing out on half of what makes D&D fun to play with your friends.
Right.
Like, I don't expect you, like, everyone can play D&D in their own way.
Right.
And by that, I mean, you can have a high fantasy D&D, you can have space D&D, you can have an airship campaign, you can have Wild West D&D, you can have a modern day D&D that's supernatural, right? All of those things exist to be exploited. All of those things can be found in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Right.
But small squad wargaming is not one of those things.
Right.
D&D is not just about the combat, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to get out here. Like, if you are missing out on all the stories that you could tell with your friends, cool. Whatever. I guess that's how you want to play D&D, but that's not a fun way to play D&D by any means.
Right.
You're missing a lot of the game.
The games that you feel, or at least in my opinion, that feel like the most of a grind are the ones where you show up and you're in combat for 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, dude. D&D 5th edition is not designed to optimize combat. It takes a long time.
It can take an extremely long time.
Oh my God. Yeah. And then there's so much stuff like, oh, I want to target the creature's head versus like just hitting him. That's not in D&D. That's how you describe it or how the DM describes it.
Right, exactly.
So there's no like chance to hit someone's head. There's no like there's none of those like, oh, like you just rolled a crit so you do double damage, not like stabbing him in the eye, right? Like all of that is still based on how you describe the world and how you describe what the players are doing or have the players describe
inside the world
doing,
and everything.
So yeah, I don't know, like if you take all of the stories out of D&D, all you're left with is some numbers and some dice, and that does not seem fun to me.
Right. Well, and they do have skirmish games that have characters that are broken and all that kind of stuff, where you can put 5 guys on a table, a little 2x2 table, and play Warhammer Underworlds, where you can have a barbarian that runs up and just slashes things.
Yeah.
And you play for 30 to 40 minutes a round. You can play multiple times in one night. You can play a tournament over the course of a day and play like 10 different games and still get the output that you want from it.
Yeah, so why would you pick D&D if you're going for small squad wargaming?
HeroClix is a small squad war game.
I just, if all you're focused on is min-maxing your character, like if you are picking, like, I'm going to pick a battle axe because it's 1d12, or I'm going to pick a greatsword because it's 2d6 for a fighter versus like something that's based on your background or has lore behind it, or like a weapon that has like an impact on your character. Like, what the fuck are you're literally just trying to min-max your character, and DMs will see that. Like, pick stuff that's fun. You know how many people I've known that have done like war picks in their campaign? One, and it was Ross, and I told him to pick it. Like, no one uses flails because they're a D6, I think, or D8 maybe. I don't know. But no one uses flails in D&D. No one uses spears and shields. Like, it's all just like, oh, I'm gonna use a longsword because it's D8, or I can hold it with 2 hands and be D10. And then eventually they buy plate armor and a fucking greatsword, because the minimum damage you can do with a greatsword is 2.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation
ridiculous
with a good friend of ours, Mackenzie Russell. We talked about this, and he's like, every time I read Reddit, everyone's like, oh, I take variant human so I can get a feat, and then the first feat I always take is Polearm Master. So 80% of their builds, if they do anything in the martial class whatsoever, they take Polearm Master.
Yeah,
and then they take Sentinel.
You know how many fucking feats
and then they
there
take
are
Alert.
now?
Those are the 3 things they do, versus doing something unique.
Also, I just want to point out the 3 most common rules in D&D 5th edition are all optional. So multi-classing, optional. Feats, optional. The fucking variant human, optional.
Yep.
All of those are optional rule sets for D&D, and it says so when you go to those things.
Yep.
Like, oh my God.
No, I fully agree. I think it's something that is. So
yeah, small squad wargaming, wrong. Get out of here. I don't want you here. Get the fuck out.
Well, what do you mean? Why do you have a survival check if you have if it's a small squad war game?
To detect the person to hit with my greatsword.
What about a history check? Fucking yeah, and that's my thing is why do most skill checks exist? The ones that I can see arguments is perception, so you can see a stealth unit handle animals so you can get into something in combat. But those, and then athletics.
Yeah, see, you're no, don't stop. But, don't even try to justify this. It's not right. It's
those are small things compared to what those skills are actually supposed to be used.
You could do so much with skills in D&D. Yep. Oh my god! Like I think people think very small. They think very small, smooth brain. They need to think very big, rough brain, right? Like it is not just like. Use your skill checks for what you need to use them for. Don't just like make a character and then have a background like, oh, I'm gonna take alchemical tools. You can make like alchemical fire, which is like super hard. It's like napalm. You know how hard that is to get off? You can make fucking poisons. You can make like healing potions. You can do all that shit with your alchemist tools. Don't just make your character and then forget what the fuck makes your character great.
Well, and again, it goes back to the same mentality. I think we read a comment last week that was like, oh, if I'm a fighter, why would I take any background other than soldier? And it's
that was one of the next things I'm going to get into was on that same post, and the reason that came about was because people were describing how basically how useless story is for D&D, and I hate that mentality at all. And then later on the same fucking thing, r/D&D, they were talking about the importance of stories in games. So it's almost like the mods of that Reddit were just trying to start arguments. Well, but in that he was talking about how hard it is to justify your character becoming an adventurer based on your class, which if you know anything about me or Jacob, like your origin, your backstory, whatever they're calling it now in Tasha's, is not supposed to be based on your class.
Right.
Your origin is everything that happens up until you take the first level in your class.
Right.
So you could be a druid and have a fucking hermit background, or you could be a druid and have a soldier background.
Right.
You could be a fucking soldier and be a wizard. Like none of that matters.
It takes an ounce of creativity that you had this soldier who went through war and famine and all this kind of hardship, and he decided to put his swords down and go into the forest, and then now he's one with nature. Crazy.
Yeah. Oh my god. Insane.
It's a backstory. 5 seconds.
Crazy how that works. So
100 IQ play.
To summarize that whole thing, if you were a new player or a new DM and you look at the backgrounds, none of those backgrounds are supposed to be based on classes.
Right.
Your background is separate. That's why I have my players usually I try to have my players pick it first. Because in every game I've ever played, if a character picks their class and they have an idea for their class and then they roll their stats, they'll always be disappointed because they're never going to be able to build the class they want.
Right.
And they will always be disappointed with their backstory because they will never be able to build the person they want to build. So like you need to come up with your backstory and your origin first and then lead into why that makes you your class, why you became an adventurer.
Right.
See what I'm saying? I'm not trying to confuse anyone with that. Like everything before level 1, what happened? Right. Who are you? How old are you? What did you do? Who are the people you knew? Who's your family? Like that's the essence of what makes a good character.
Right.
Why do you have this like nervous tick? Why do you have that scar over your eye? Like what makes you a badass?
Right.
And then take your first level and be like, oh, that's really cool. I have this really badass soldier that decided to like become an eco-terrorist. And so now he's a druid that literally controls nature to fuck up the urban environment because he's had to burn so many forests in his life. Like badass character. Like
Right.
I don't understand why people are so like they're so preoccupied with min-maxing characters and numbers and damage and how fast they can go as a tabaxi that they're not worried about what their character's about anymore. And that's what frustrates me about D&D, and that's what frustrates me about D&D Reddit.
Right.
Because they're fucking idiots. Like they're focusing too much on their levels and not about they're turning it too much into a video game rather than a story-based role-playing game.
Right.
With your friends. Like crazy times.
No, I 100% hear what you're saying. Which is actually kind of leads into mine because
what was your thing?
Into the math. We're going to go into the math dark side of D&D of mid-maxing a character and what the statistics do and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about the wizard today.
Oh, yeah?
For my commenting on commons. So the wizard's a fairly strong class. It's probably out of the D6 casters of a sorcerer and a wizard, it's the stronger of the two. If you read through it, because the sorcerer's been nerfed a lot in D&D 5th edition.
Don't even talk about my favorite class like that.
And the wizard gets a lot of abilities, these kinds of things. And the main thing I'm going to talk about is, let me make sure I didn't get any of these. Let's see. Someone asked how do spells work. If you're not aware, each character actually has a leveling up chart pretty close to the beginning of where it is, and that tells you how many spells you get per level of what level, that kind of thing. That's just kind of a nice little FYI for you, you know?
Yeah, that chart's super important for all your characters.
For every character, it tells you your proficiency bonus. It tells you spellcasters, how many you get, all that kind of things. The biggest thing that I had is there's a class of wizard.
Yep.
Known as Bladesinging.
Oh my God. We're going to this again?
Yeah, this is my favorite one because there's a lot of people. So Tabaxi Murderer 777 said Bladesinging is not actually very good because your hit die is still a D6.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing I was like thinking.
Right.
But
and then
I know what you're going to get into.
Oh yeah, this is going to be really interesting. And again, this is the mathematical mid-maxing side of D&D that we talk about.
Yeah.
Where you can break a game if you think about it long enough versus just enjoying the game and the flaws that you might have as a character, right? You play as you, this was user with just a random number behind it. You play as you wish. I think that it is a mistake to consider the Bladesinger a melee combatant first. The point of the wizard, in my view, is spells and especially control spells. This also depends on, of course, the party you are part of, which, meh. I don't know if we've actually talked about that on our show.
It's about the weave.
Yeah.
I also don't give a fuck about who else is playing the game with me because I'm going to play my character the way I want to play my character.
Yeah, they talk about how the wizard is a Swiss Army knife because of the wide range of spells available, which is true.
Everyone does describe it as the best support caster.
Yeah,
because of the tools at its disposal.
And then this person says he thinks they think it's important for them to build it around the strengths and weaknesses of the group. I don't know what levels you're playing, but it seems pretty high. Blah blah blah, because they're responding to somebody.
I know I'm going to break your train of thought with this too, but this is another thing that goes into like creating your story, right? So, your party, if you're a DM, the party doesn't have to know each other, right? Like in the campaign my lovely wife is playing, you and I play brothers, full-blooded elves, which in the year that we're in Finrath, 4E like 208, 205, whatever, 218 I think is what it is. Elves are like hardcore, like the humans are super racist against elves.
Right.
Well, one of our friends, Ross, plays a full-blooded human bard that is basically oh my God, he based it off of Michael Jackson in real life.
Right.
So he's a bard that like sings and has that same accent, the same voice and all that stuff. And then my character fucking hates him. I was in the war that literally fought and watched like humans burn down elvish villages and like murder babies and shit.
Well, and
then I'm just supposed to be okay with him being in my party? Like, no, fuck that guy.
Well, and
I'm literally only working with him because of the circumstances.
Yeah, backstory that we're talking about being brothers is that so my character is a reborn in that campaign.
Yeah, which is in Von Ritten's Guide to Ravenloft. Or supposed to be.
Which and this is something that we had talked about and isn't really well known in the game that we're playing, but you had seen me pretty much murdered.
Yeah. I literally watched humans mangle you and then
clip my ears, like burn off half my face, cut off my arm, and like leave me in a pile of bodies to die.
Yep.
And
vicious.
Your character
and violent.
as a character is supposed to just forget that.
Yeah, because I'm in a party with him because I'm playing a game. I don't care I don't care what his class is. I don't care what his abilities are. I don't care about anything other than what his race is at this point.
Right.
And that's part of what makes Finrath
and that's part
so
of the role-playing aspect that makes a game a little bit more intense is you don't hold any animosity towards Ross as a person or anything like that. You know,
he's a pretty cool dude.
But your character does, and
I hate him.
And that's a huge difference. You know what I mean?
I hate humans. That's literally what we did.
Let's see.
But yeah, so to sum that whole section up, the reason I got off on that tangent is because too many people base their classes off of what else their party members are doing. Like, oh, you got to have a wizard, you got to have a fighter, you got to have a cleric for healing, all this. No, you don't. You don't have to have any of that.
Yeah,
never focus on what anyone else is doing. Focus on yourself.
Well, and in non-grit,
unless that's the game you're playing.
A non-grit D&D. It is extremely easy to heal.
Yeah, you just snooze for 8 hours and you're done.
And you're fully healed again. There's very few things that permanently lower your hit points. There's very few things that would stop you from getting all your hit dice back, all that kind of stuff.
Not in Finrath. Not in Finrath.
When you play grit D&D, a healer becomes important, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a cleric or a paladin in your party guaranteed.
You can do whatever you want.
You can do what you want to.
Druid. Actually, Warlock, Celestial Pact or whatever is one of the best healers.
Right.
With a familiar back to the chain or whatever. But what were you getting at with this? So Bladesinger is a badass.
Oh yeah, Bladesinger is a badass. I'm getting into the numbers. The last comment I have on it before we break it down and what you can do with the Bladesinging wizard is when a wizard has 13 strength, you know you've rolled your stats too well, but you don't always have to put strength as a dumb stat for a wizard.
Not at all.
You could have a punchy wizard.
You can have a dumb wizard. Like, you can literally play the game with an 8 or less intelligence if you really wanted to, and that could be part of your story.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're a shitty wizard, yeah, cool, whatever. But maybe you're like a punchy boy until you can like actually get your intelligence back.
Maybe you have a mind curse on you by a demi-lich.
Maybe you were feeble-minded or some shit. And that's part of your backstory, and you got to find that lich and have your teammates help you beat him. That way you can get your spells back. Like,
right? Yeah.
So much
your
shit.
Spell save DC is like 8, or something. Yeah, and again, that's the story element that we really like to harbor too.
Yeah.
However. So we're going to break it down. Challenge rating is something we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So a level 8 character is what I'm going to go into now, and it's all 8 levels of Bladesinging Wizard.
Okay.
The mid-max portion of this, the 3 stats that you would need to know is at level 8 with your 2 boosts, and then because you're mid-maxing, you take your like variant human feat and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the two ability score improvements is what you're talking about. The fourth, you get one at 4th level and one at 8th level.
Right. So your feats that you could take would be super easy, or you would take your ability score improvements to give you a 20 in your intelligence, a 20 in your dexterity, and then try to get about a 13 or 14 in your con if you can, if you have another stat that does that. And so for the assumptions of this, you'll have 2 20s and a 14.
Which is not impossible to get.
No, not at level 8. And to go into it, right? So challenge rating, you are 1/4 of a party essentially. So a single 8th level character, a easy challenge would be like a 2, medium challenge is a 3, hard is a 4, and deadly is a 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
For challenge rating.
Yep. So I'm going to go into those numbers a little bit with something as simple as just regular studded leather armor with those stats. And you take the feat of 2 weapon fighting and have 2 weapons in your hand.
Dual wielder is the
dual
feat.
Wielder. Yeah. Yep. And then you have haste up. You have an AC of 26 at level 8.
Yeah.
The highest to hit ratio for a challenge rating 2 is a rhinoceros with a +7 to hit, meaning that it only has a chance to hit you on a 19 or a 20.
Yeah, if it crits, it's an auto hit, and then a 19 will be a successful hit because it matches your AC.
And then for the purposes of this, I calculated it at 5 rounds and how much damage they would do to you, how much damage you would do to them.
Yeah.
With 14 in your health, you have an average of about 50 health.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. But the rhinoceros over 5 rounds only hits you 0.5 times and only does 14 damage. So it does, and then you have done 90 damage to it. So you've done enough to kill it twice in the course of 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Which is an easy combat.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is something you and I talked about, right? Because I didn't want you to like min-max the Bladesinger against my wife because I love her to death. And you play your reborn character, the one that we had actually mentioned previously, is a Bladesinging wizard, full-blooded, I think at level 10.
Yep.
At level 10, you have 37 hit points, 47 hit points?
I have 47 hit points because I have 1 plus 1 in con. Yep.
Everyone else in the game has like 70 hit points because they're all like D8 people, except for our sorcerer. I think she has about the same. But beyond any of that, you have 47 hit points with a D6. You are a frontline combatant who was on the front lines against sharks, against the whatever else we fought, the siren things I think we fought, all of those things we fought, and you didn't die.
No. I didn't get hit once.
Because you have a 20 for your AC, not min-maxing it. Just playing it.
Just playing, yeah. And then as soon as your Blade Song is up and Blade Song and all that kind of stuff, you can get like a 26, right?
Haste, the feature that you get called Bladesinging, adds your intelligence to it, right?
Yes, you add your intelligence to your AC.
And then you can cast Haste, which is a concentration spell.
Which is +2, which also gives you an additional attack.
Yeah, and it gives you an additional attack. So...
and then, so also, by the way, the highest AC on all of these creatures is only like a 13, and you natively have a +8 to hit.
Yeah.
So you hit on average 80 to 90% of the time.
At level
and they
7.
hit an average
or level 8. Yeah.
Yeah, they hit an average of 5 to 15% of the time.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
And then you have to factor this in too. Like usually you're not playing one-on-one against these creatures. There's going to be like a whole party of people with like a paladin and shit that's min-maxed.
Right. Well, this is why this is the mathematical side. This is what tells you
that's insane.
Whether the character's viable, right?
Yeah.
Is an owlbear, which is challenge rating 3. So this would be a medium to hard difficulty. Still only has a +7 to hit, which is the highest you can find in challenge rating 3 from the research that I did. Still only does about 10 points of damage on average if it hits you. So out of the 5 rounds of combat, the one time that it hits you, you take 10 damage, and it's taken 90 of its 59 hit points.
That's insane.
Yes. Yeah, and this is the math. Obviously,
and people bitch because it's a D6.
Because it's a D6, people want to go away from it. Now, in Etten, which is challenge rating 4, this would be a hard to a deadly encounter by yourself to take on.
Yeah.
Is a +7 to hit still. At challenge rating 4, the cap is still +7 to hit, meaning that anything challenge rating 4 and below only hits you on an 18+.
Yeah.
Also, just a little cherry on the top, because you're a wizard, you could learn Shield, which is a reaction that gives you +5 to your AC,
Yeah,
and you could have a 31 if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So that means you could take that 10% down to a 5 if you really wanted to.
Oh my
right?
God.
And again, they have 85 hit points, so over 5 rounds, they hit you once and deal 14 damage, and you have inflicted an average of 90. And that's only hitting with 2 attacks in a turn.
That is the statistics. That is the statistics of it. My lisp came back hard on that one. That doesn't mean that you can't roll better or worse than those statistics.
Correct.
Because each instance of the dice is its own, like...
Exactly. This is just...
roll,
and this
right?
is without advantage. This is without multiple creatures, pack features, facing spellcasters,
obviously.
Various things.
Just base.
Yep.
If you were just rolling the dice average, you will beat the shit out of anything.
And then the last
one,
challenging
right now, right?
The last one is challenge rating 5, which is a deadly encounter for any level 8 to take on. I could read upside down.
Triceratops.
This is a Triceratops.
Strike.
The challenge rating 5s is where it finally gets to like +9 all the way up to like +11. So this one's at a +9, which is hitting on a 16+, which is approximately a 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25.
You said 26 for your AC, right?
Yeah.
So it should be a 16 or above, right? +9?
Yeah.
No, God, math hard. 17 or above.
17 or above.
17 or above. So it's still insane.
You only have a 20% chance to get hit.
Yeah.
So out of 5 rounds of combat, they've swung 10 times and hit you twice. This is where it gets a little bit sketchy, and this is where Shield would come in because it's an easy spell to take.
Yeah.
If they hit you once, maybe twice, they do 24 damage on average to hit you.
Yeah.
Again, this is the deadly encounter that any other class should be taking deadly. You've done 90 of their 95 hit points at that point in time.
So you just have to hit that one final time before they hit you.
Yes. And
which,
again,
if you have a high enough dex, you're going to roll initiative before them.
Right. And again, that is calculating only hitting twice a turn with an 80% chance to hit. So that's only saying that I only hit twice every turn.
With haste up.
With haste up.
Yeah.
Right. So you can feasibly take on a deadly encounter as a hard encounter by yourself as a blade wizard.
Yeah. And I think almost every class outside of Ranger is probably capable of doing that at the same level.
I could see it.
Yeah, 100%. Paladins, easy. Fighters, easy. Barbarians, way easy.
Yeah, because they're taking like half damage from all that.
Sorcerers,
maybe not sorcerer.
Yeah, because they suck anyway.
Well,
because
and then
the guys at Wizard just fucked over sorcerers. Let's not count.
Right. So
Bards
that is
definitely.
Also only taking into account that you have no magical weapons.
Yeah.
No magical armor.
Yeah.
As a level 8 character.
Which, based on my experience on Reddit, apparently no fucking DM on the planet likes handing out magic items. No one likes to play a high magic campaign. I am apparently a crazy person for playing Finrath and Ebrium as high magic.
Right.
Because no one likes it. It's, oh my God, that's asinine.
Right.
Like, putting a barrier around a city. Who are you?
Yeah.
Right?
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
But again, that's also with a spellcasting class, not casting spells, just beating people up with
you
a
could
stick.
still fireball with that.
You can still all those creatures, none of them fly.
Yeah, so you could still fly.
Except for maybe the owlbear. I didn't read whether that one could fly. You could just cast fly on yourself and then just stand at a distance and cantrip all these things to death. Like,
yeah, you don't even have to like, go up and beat people.
That is only playing the Bladesinging Wizard as a frontline fighter with 3 attacks each round.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying to all these people is get fucking good. Like, learn how to play your fucking class, and then you don't have to worry about this.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about me yelling at you on the internet.
And look at things instead of just being like, it's never going to be viable because it's D6.
Yeah, because it's a D6. You're never going to be able to do that. Whenever the whole point of the class is not to take damage, which is what I was summing up with that too.
Yep.
Like, I didn't want you to min-max this class and have like a 26 AC for my wife.
Right.
To have to deal with, who's DM'd twice in her life.
Right.
One of those being the game that we played with her.
Right.
And so like, I didn't want her to have to deal with some asinine character like that.
Yeah.
And then you rolled your hit points and you got 47 hit points, and I was like, oh,
that's why it's balanced.
That's why you have a high AC.
Because you get hit once and you're gone.
Oh, it's crazy how like a monk can roll like 2,000 hit points and still have a 20 for its AC. It's crazy how a fighter can wear plate armor and wield a shield and have 1,000 like health.
Yeah.
Barbarians can get a 20 AC if you max out fucking dexterity and con.
Yep.
Like,
well, and again, it's one of those things where those are just one-on-one fights.
And I think barbarians could still wield a shield.
If someone does an AoE spell at you and you fail to save, all that kind of stuff immediately takes you out of a lot of fights.
Yeah.
It has weaknesses. It's just fighting isn't one of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy about it is everyone's like, oh, it's not a good fighter. It's not a good fighter.
It's a great fighter.
Yeah, I mean,
you mix Bladesinger with a fucking Eldritch Knight fighter, like you blend those two classes together, and both of them immediately become more viable.
Yeah, if you did 8 and 12, if you did 8 Bladesinging Wizard, and you did 12 Eldritch Knight, you would have a very, very powerful character.
Yeah.
And a big part of the reason is, and this is something that you and I have talked about.
Yeah, the only downside I see with it is in the general rules, in the core rules, it says that in the world of Faerûn, elves closely guard Bladesinging.
Right.
So like you have to be an elf
essentially
in order to Bladesing.
Yep.
But that's just something you would talk to. There's no reason why you couldn't have a human that was raised by elves or a half elf that like blended that elvish lineage. Like
no, exactly. And then
a dwelf.
A dwelf.
I don't remember what you were going to say. I completely interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I completely forgot as well. So it's gone to the ether.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and that's why people look at classes and they're like, oh, this isn't what it's native to do. But there are ways that you could make it good.
Yeah.
And again, that is the mid-maxing that we talk about, where you take something and you break it to the nth degree.
Yeah.
In a party where you still have healers, you still have your people to support you, it's fine to just have a 20 AC and you're just slinging around spells and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna mess people up.
Dude, having a 20 AC at any level is asinine.
Yeah.
Like one of the greatest bards of all time, and I've talked about this before, Scanlan Shorthalt.
Yep.
He had a 14 AC, and then it eventually went up to like, I think he had a 14 AC against Vecna in the final episodes of that campaign. He had a 14 AC, Jacob.
Right.
A level 20 bard with a 14 AC.
Yeah,
and you realize how much shit he got?
To hit. Yeah.
Do you know how much shit he got on the internet for that? Because he refused to wear anything other than like I think he had studded, like acid resistant studded leather armor.
Oh yeah, well, and what's insane to me is the level of things that people get because people role play instead of mid-maxing, right?
Oh, dude, Critical Role. I don't care who you are. If you go and watch Matthew Mercer work his magic on Critical Role on a weekly basis, holy fuck, will it make you a better DM, story-wise.
Right.
He doesn't care so much about the rules. He doesn't care if his players know every single detail about the game because he can look it up in the fucking book, which is the essence of what makes a good DM.
Right.
There are people on the internet that give all of those voice actors so much shit because they're like, oh, they're professional actors, so that's not how your game of D&D is going to go. Like, it totally can. Like, you're just saying you don't want to do that because you're a shitty player or you're a shitty DM you don't want to devote that much time to.
Right.
Like, you totally can make your game just like fucking Critical Role if you want it.
You can make people care about their stuff.
Having that expectation of your players, though, especially brand new players, is the wrong idea there.
Right.
So, like, having your players... Trying to make your players be like professional voice actors is different than just saying, hey, have fun with it, guys.
Yep.
Like, play the game the way you want to play the game, and then we'll make it work.
Yeah.
That's what Matthew Mercer does. That's
again,
what he does. He just happens to have professional actors around him.
Yeah, and as professional voice actors, they actually can use voices for hours in a day, and it doesn't affect them as much.
Yeah, it doesn't bother them.
Right, and again, if you want to get people into the role playing, you can set the standard of like everything's okay. If I walk up and I'm like, all right, what are you guys doing today? And it's like, well, you're not using a voice, so how do we know? And it's like, because I'm talking as my character 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I'll say, hey, out of game real quick. Like, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That kind of
and
thing.
that's also the trick too, is not having so many of those moments. Like when you're playing at the game, play as your character.
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're trying to discuss like who's buying pizza or like what you want to order online on DoorDash or something. Cool, we get it. Yeah, that should be out of game. But for the most part, there's no decisions or anything that you shouldn't be making as a character in game.
Right.
Like if you're coming up and being like, hey, what are we doing today? Like you're your character asking other characters what they want to do today. The other side of that is as a player, and I've had this quite a bit with newer players, and it's hard to get out of, is instead of describing what you're saying to the other players, say it to those other players, right?
Right.
Don't look at the DM and be like, I'm telling him this. Look at that player and say, I'm telling you this, right? And that's how that works. Like,
right.
That's how you can immediately be 100 times better at your role play, is just by talking.
Yep.
Like you don't have to do an accent. You don't have to do a voice. You don't have to be a professional actor. You just have to sit there and think, what would my character do? And then do it.
Right.
Right. Like that's what it would be like. Like for me, with my full-blooded elven brother of you, I don't like humans. I don't want to work with humans. That is my, I don't know if you would describe that as a flaw or like an ideal. That's an ideal. Definitely.
Yeah.
And so like my ideology is humans fucking suck. I'm going to murder them all. And there's happens to be a human in my party. So fuck that guy in particular. I don't care about his music. I don't care who he is. I don't care that he rolled a natural 20 for his fucking, has a 37 for his persuasion or something. He's not persuading me. I hate you. Get out of here. Like you have to factor those elements into the game, right? Like, otherwise, you're just sitting there with all your friends and like nothing, there's no conflict, there's no drama, there's no story.
Right, and the best shows that are on TV are the ones that have an element of drama inside their own groups.
Yeah,
and that's just something that's
gotta have that conflict.
Always been written. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's my commenting on comments is the Bladesinging Wizard. A lot of people are underestimating what it can do, but it can take on a deadly encounter feasibly by itself. And again, against a Triceratops, that's only saying it hits twice, but in reality, you hit 80% of the time. So you're probably going to kill it well before turn 5.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's why most combat doesn't last beyond round 3.
Yeah.
I have all of you guys in my party. I don't even remember if we haven't played D&D in so long. Who do I have? Ambrose the Warlock, Hexblade Warlock at that, already broken. You as a assassin rogue with a shotgun.
Yeah.
So that does a stupid amount of damage. My lovely wife's playing a Circle of Spores Druid. And then we have the Cleric, which is a Circle of Life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Blood Hunter from Critical Role, actually, from Matthew Mercer's Blood Hunter.
Yep.
And you guys wipe the floor if I balance an encounter like that. I literally have to give stuff more hit points just because of how much damage you guys can deal out.
Or additional traits that are slight
or additional
or
traits,
something like that.
Because I think I did I added the parry trait to like Assault Devil.
Yep.
And so it could like catch arrows and shit, which is pretty badass.
Oh yeah, yeah. And honestly, and that's what's crazy is PCs are very unbalanced, especially when you start putting multiple of them.
Well, they are supposed to be heroes.
Yeah,
I think
to a certain degree.
I do think my campaigns are more gritty than other campaigns. Like I don't enjoy, and this may just be me. Maybe I just need to talk to all my players, like you and everybody, because I don't enjoy games where you just put on the Daedric armor of godliness and you take 0 damage and you just one-shot devils and shit. Like, that has its place. That's definitely a good one-shot material. But for the campaigns that I want to build, for the stories I'm trying to build for my website and for everything else, like, I don't care that you're heroes. Like you will die.
People are heroes because of the struggles they go through.
Exactly.
Not because they can just instantly do everything.
1 in 5 chances.
Yeah. What is it? Even Goku loses every now and then.
Oh yeah, he gets his ass beat all the time. And then the next episode he like screams for 45 minutes. And then the episode after that he screams for another 45 minutes. Yeah. And then the episode after that he beats that guy.
Because he gets knocked down, but then he gets up again.
That's copyright.
I didn't sing it.
You said the words.
The words exist. Oh man, yeah. So that's my opinion. Is
okay. So I know we're going a little bit over time here, but I did want to bring this up.
Yeah,
and I wanted to get your opinion on it. This is not really commenting on comments anymore, but there's a guy that made up 5e resting rules. So just to clarify some of the things for the people listening, I play with a lot of the grit rules that I've made. They're on my website. They're at the very top of the page under my homebrew rules, right? And it's like, so short rest and long rest is still the same, 1 hour and then 8 hours after that. But a long rest only restores 1 hit dice. It's a hit dice based on a 4th of your level.
Yep.
So at 20th level, you can get 5 hit dice back.
Right. You don't heal automatically.
Yep. And you get back all your spells and all that stuff because that would make the game way too difficult. I tried that one time and it did not work. And then for a short rest, if you are proficient or expertise in medicine, you can use a healer's kit to help people. Basically, you expend the use of the healer's kit and then the person you're using it on will be able to use hit dice essentially to heal. Yep. And that's kind of the slow natural healing that I'm using, right?
Right.
So this guy has grit rules and it's for resting. So he says a breather is kind of the short thing that you do after a fight.
Right.
It's a brief downtime of at least 5 minutes during which a character does nothing more strenuous than talking, drinking, and patching up wounds. And then he has short rest, which is 8 hours long. And then he has a long rest, which is 5 days. Now, I realize if I blend those two rules with mine, it's going to be really fucking obnoxious. There's also a whole list of other stuff that he gets into, like a breather is the spell slot. Basically, you can restore. A character may choose to expend spell slots to recover instead of spending a hit die. So instead of healing yourself, you can choose expended spell slots to get back during a breather.
Gotcha.
And that is spend hit dice. The player rolls the die and adds a number to the character's Constitution modifier to it. They regain hit points like that, whatever. You can choose expended spell slots to recover instead of spending hit die. The spell slots can have a combined level that is equal to or less than half your spellcasting levels rounded up, and none of the spells can be 6th level or higher.
Okay.
So they basically give you the arcane recovery feature of wizards.
Right.
Now, that means that warlocks become less viable.
Right.
Because that was the whole kind of point of them, is that they're cantrip casters and they get their shit back on a short rest.
Right.
Sorcerers and wizards immediately become better. And the way that everyone was doing this was they were saying, oh, this doesn't benefit martial classes at all. This only benefits casters in games, because it makes it where they can cast more spells before they have to rest.
Right.
Meanwhile, you have a fighter that can unlimitedly smack you in the face with its battle axe or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is, I don't know. Do you think that would be cool to implement with my grit rules? Like something to that effect, maybe a little bit less,
I don't know about for the permanent game or the long-lasting game that we play, but I have toyed with the idea of doing an extremely gritty game where
long rest you have is like to do 7 days.
Yeah, you have to take like a week of actually recovering and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it makes it feel like every decision is more intense.
The reason I bring this up too is because last week we had the guy that sent in the question of like, how do you run downtime activities? To me, if your long rest was 7 days,
right,
then you would have time to do a bunch more downtime activities.
Yeah,
you'd have
you could actually smith for that entire week while you're relaxing and all that kind of stuff.
I would argue. I mean, that's pretty strenuous activity, right?
Right. But it's not combat.
It's not combat. You're not actively engaging in combat or doing any of that stuff. So
but the monotony of work will always be less stressful than the.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm getting at, because I can always shift the rules down, right? Like a short rest being 8 hours, you get back your hit dice, right? 1 hit dice. Or the number equal to a 4th of your level, whatever my rule is. And then on a long rest, the way that he did it was, if you do 5 days of downtime, not strenuous activity, 5 days of downtime, you get back all of your stuff.
Yeah.
So you get back all your hit dice, you get back all your spells, you get back all of your features and traits and all that stuff.
Right.
Which to me is what makes it worth it.
I think there's a way that you could hybridize it. It definitely slows down the game from a lot of people I feel play very fast paced, where they don't spend a couple weeks in a city. They don't spend.
Yeah, they just bounce around all over the fucking world. They just kind
of run town to town, mission after mission after mission, versus realistically, you're traveling hundreds of miles by foot or in a cart and all that kind of stuff.
Finrath, it's thousands of miles.
Right. Yeah, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah, from West Haven to Greywater, it's 1,000 miles.
Right, and depending on how you word it, you could even say that, like, you guys travel for 5 days. That's a long rest because you're just on a horse. It's a little bit laborious, but it's not as intense as actual activity, if that makes sense. And you could have
you're not getting a bunch of wounds and shit. The problem that I see with that, though, is that you're not sleeping in a comfortable bed. You're sleeping on the ground, so that's a little bit more.
Right.
That goes a little bit beyond outside of what I'm like thinking.
Right.
I mean, like if you spend time in a like tavern or a brothel or whatever type of game you're running, right?
Right.
Or if you have like an actual house, like if you and the party have bought like a castle or something,
right,
and you spend like 5 days down in that. Smithing or as an artificer enchanting something, as a wizard enchanting something, it just as a whistler doing like small odd jobs where he's just like yoinking bitches from 1,200 yards away, like stuff like that I can see as downtime activities, and then you would get back all your stuff at the end of those 5 days. So you have those little side quests, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And to me that seems really cool, but I just don't know how other people would feel about it.
Well, I think there is a way to it, and you could adapt it to the grit rules. I am naturally more of I want to be challenged as a player.
Yeah.
And so in Finrath, I play a construct, and I actually don't heal natively from magic, which means the only way that I
you play my construct.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's in Finrath specific, which means that I only heal through hit dice. So it can take me days to heal.
Or advanced mending.
There is an advanced mending spell, but for the first half of the sessions we've played so far, that wasn't an option yet because no one was high enough level to know it and stuff like that. But long story short, I gravitate more towards the grind of making the game difficult, because what if you're in the middle of your 5 days? What if you're on day 3 with the intent to relax and then like a dragon attacks the city? Yeah.
And then you wouldn't get that long rest. That's the other thing for actual long rest rules, right? In the player's handbook or DM's guide, wherever it is, long rests, if you have 1 hour of strenuous activity and it interrupts your long rest, you do not get the benefits of a long rest.
Right.
So like if you have to like flee from a dragon, if you have to run through a city, if you have to do anything that lasts for an hour or more, you don't get that 8-hour long rest.
Right,
you
exactly.
lose all that shit and you have to restart.
Yep.
Which I think is cool. So like, if you have 5 days in your castle and then bandits attack the castle and you're fighting for an hour straight, you don't get that long rest, right?
Right, exactly.
Or, you know, less time than that technically. But
I like it. I think there's definitely a place for it. I don't know if it would be a good long-term rule, because I do feel like it would expand the timelines and potentially slow down the game as you're explaining.
Yeah, and you can even
all that
skip
kind of
that
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, you could just be like, all right, what are you doing? 2 sentences go. What are you doing? 2 sentences go.
Well, you can even skip all that stuff. You're just like, you guys had downtime, like you rested and you slept, whatever. No, let's get to the mission, right? Especially if it's important.
You could.
And that, again, that is just to recover everything all at once. You still have the normal rules of like taking a short rest or taking a long rest in order to get back, like, you know, X amount of hit dice. You
right,
have
a hit dice and all that kind of
breather that's like 5 minutes instead of 1 hour of long rest.
Right.
So you can actually like just take like, you know, a moment, let your adrenaline kind of die down a little bit, and then move on to the next phase of the dungeon. And you can actually get some of your like short rest stuff back. I don't know, because I used to have short rest as like 20 to 30 minutes. Basically, as long as it takes you to attune to an item.
Right.
And that kind of sped the game up a little bit too, because then people would be like, all right, well, we're just going to take 30 minutes and then move on so they can go attack people. But
yeah, the biggest thing is the game is kind of balanced towards the 1 day. Like each day is its own adventure.
Yeah.
So you will have classes that are like, you can only use this feature X amount of times per long rest, and spell casting be the obvious, but I think there's fighter features that you only get.
Yeah, you have like the once per dawn, roll this dice and you get back spell
slots. You do have those as well,
like, for the magic items.
Yep.
Which I can see.
I think there is.
Which is why
a lot of balancing that would go into it.
Well, it's just the words that kind of get confused, right? So your short rest then becomes a long rest.
Right.
So instead of it saying like you get these features back on a short rest, I guess no, because that would really suck to have to wait 5 days to get like some of your warlock features back, or like to change spells for a druid. Oh my god.
Yeah,
because it specifies long rest in that one. So I guess I could see how that would bog down things.
Right.
Yeah, it would just change the words to where instead of, if it says long rest, it's a long rest. If it's says short rest, it's a breather. Something like that. Oh, dude, no, fuck that. Oh my god, warlocks would be broke as hell.
Yeah, you just gotta breathe for 5 minutes. I just thought about that.
You're like, okay, done. Let's fuck shit up.
Yeah. breathe, go.
Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think, like I said, the game's balanced in an interesting way. You could possibly do it, but they're like, and I was just checking it to make sure. Is so like the samurai class only gets its feature 3 times per long rest.
Yeah.
It's a really broken feature, so I'm not sure if you would really be going without, because you still have like Indomitable and Second Wind and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So maybe if you do like a short rest for like 8 hours, you just like roll a D3 or something,
and maybe get those back or something.
Maybe get that back.
That might, or maybe you get 1 use,
or a D4 plus 1.
Actually, I think for a high-level campaign, because 90% of things that get back on long rests with characters, if you roll initiative, you get 1 use of it back. So actually, for a high-level campaign, it could be really fun.
Yeah, so you like roll initiative and you get like 1 use of your.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if you used all 3 in the first day as a samurai fighter in D&D 5th edition, if you're 14th level or higher, if you ever roll initiative, you get 1 use back.
Yeah.
So that could be a good way to do it. That way, it's not as limited. I could definitely see it being fun high level. But again, you just have to be careful with those balancing and blending, of different features and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people use those kind of rules for low magic, though, if that makes sense, where you don't really have a lot of wizards and things like that. It's to make magic feel more potent, because, you cast a 9th level spell.
Oh, dude, magic feels potent in Fenrith, that's for sure, because everybody can cast 2 spells a turn, so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it gets intense.
Wait till you guys do the math on that one, because fuck paladins, that's why. But yeah, we'll get out of here though.
Yeah.
So as always, it's sponsored by finrat.com. Go and check that out.
Heck yeah.
I have my YouTube channel where I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Sunday. I'm playing through a lot of like Mass Effect right now, and then I'm also trying to do my Fallout videos. I kind of died off on that though when Mass Effect came out, so that's the whole thing. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns about what we're saying or doing, mediocreadvice@outlook.com is the easiest way to get a hold of us. You can also find us on a lot of our other like social media. I have accounts. I don't think Jacob does.
No, I'm old.
But I have all the ZombieNikon stuff that you can find me on pretty much every social platform. Did you have anything you want to
add? No, just spread the word. Tell your friends so they can complain
share,
about us.
Please share. Because we need more views, more listens, obviously, because we're gonna beg for those until you know we become famous.
Yeah, until we hit those air horn big times, you know.
All right. Well, thanks for wasting your time with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we're gonna play you on out of here.
Yep.